and welcome to this edition of Investment Insights. I'm Jamie Gordon, editor at ETF Stream, and we're back today to talk once again about thematic ETFs. Last time we were joined by Laddie Williams of Stocks, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Olivier Souliac, who's the head of indexing at DWS Xtrackers. Olivier, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So obviously DWS has been a long-time issuer of thematic ETFs, has a broad range in the space. Could you talk to us a little bit about what makes a high-quality thematic index in your eyes?
Yeah, thank you. Quality is very difficult to assess in the thematic segment because we will only be able to measure the performance of an index after the occurrence of events that are thematically driven. For us, the quality of an index is basically fundamentally the index doing what's on the tin. On the thematic space, it needs to be doing what's on the tin for the right reason. And for us, this causality to performance has to be achieved when combining two main approaches. One which is to look at purity. Purity is really how does the theme contribute to a company's performance. In other words, it's a fundamental approach as to the identity of the company against the theme. The second very important approach that needs to be in a thematic index is relevance. Relevance is how does the company actually contribute to the theme's performance. This contribution can only be assessed when looking at forward-looking instruments. And so relevance has to be assessed. Relevance can be assessed when looking at forward-looking metrics. And one of them can be the use of patents. We think that with stocks and the defense industry for Europe, we managed to combine this purity approach using fundamental revenue data with the relevance approach using more patent-based data to achieve something that, in our view, should encompass the theme as a whole and ensure that we should end up with a good quality index.
One of the points you raised there about using alternative data sources or new data sources, one of them being patents there to, I guess, identify future winners in a particular theme or segment. I'd love to get your perspective on what will be the next trends in this segment, both in terms of the next themes that you see coming into focus and the methodologies and the data sets used to capture those themes.
I think thematic indexing is only at its beginning. Why? Because the data set, as you were saying, the data set underpinning thematic indexing are of extraordinary value. They are extremely insightful, and they can be used within institutional portfolio construction to serve many other purposes. With stocks, we developed the first factor and thematic-based index with European leaders, and we think that this combination helps fundamental investors enhance their approach to fundamental indexing thanks to the use of granular thematic data. And even in the institutional space, asset owners might be interested to include some of the thematic data set, forward-looking, fundamental, into their benchmark construction. Why? Because it helps them steer the orientation of their core investment towards where they expect nonlinear earnings growth. And this is something that can be integrated in active management as well because of the insights provided by the data, which can be applied throughout a whole benchmark universe instead of relying on very specialized analyst views.
And there you mentioned a recent product launch that's a bit at the crossroads between smart beta or factor and thematic investing. Do you think there's more scope for more of these kind of crossover or sort of intersection products that take, say, thematic data, combine it with something like factor or even sector approaches? What's your view?
Thank you. It's a very interesting question because it asks the question as to in which stage of development a theme finds itself. And in very particular circumstances, you can find that a theme has been established for more than 20 years and is actually already generating revenues. It has maybe established itself to being a subsector or a sub-subsector of an industry, meaning that you are seeing certain themes being combined with sectorial approaches as they become more and more established. On the other hand, you might want to include some additional fundamental data to very, very new themes that are extremely technically strictly defined, such that you end up with a very narrow portfolio, and other approaches such as sectorial and factorial approaches or even active management can help you complement your thematic data set in order to build the ecosystem that is expected to come around an expected theme, such that you complete the portfolio in order to achieve a thematic product which will end up being more established as the theme establishes itself. So as you can see, the combinations are endless, and the data set behind thematics is very valuable.
I think one of the really interesting points is that we're seeing more and more issuers go from these broad thematic umbrella strategies to more and more of these kind of subsectors you mentioned, but these small portfolio building block pieces allowing investors to take a much more targeted view within a theme. I think that's a development we'll see a lot more of. Olivier, thank you so much for your insights. And thank you for joining us for this edition of Investment Insights. Do join us for the final part of our special on thematic indexing, where we'll be welcoming Omar Mufti of BlackRock. Until then, take care.